consent.
טוב, אני אגיד עוד מילה, טוב, אז אנחנו, זה לכל מי שפעם ראשונה מצטרף אלינו, ולכל הצוות של קוליידר, זו ההרצאה השלישית שאנחנו עושים, שאנחנו פותחים אותה לציבור הרחב. אנחנו עושים את ההרצאות האלה כחלק מסדרה שאנחנו קוראים לאקדמיה, שהמטרה שלה היא גם להשאיר את עצמנו וגם שותפים וחברים של קוליידר, שאנחנו מזמינים אותם מדי פעם בדברים הפנימיים שאנחנו עושים. ואם יש לכם מישהו שאתם חושבים שהוא רלוונטי לצרף אותו בהמשך, או שרוצה ללמוד, או שאתם רוצים לשלוח את ההקלטה הזאת למישהו חיצוני, אז אפשר פשוט לדבר איתי, עידן, ואנחנו נעביר לכם את ההקלטה. והיום ההרצאה היא הרצאה של אילון על DAO. Let's go.
טוב, אז עוברים לאנגלית? Are we moving to English? Yes, okay. So I'll just start by saying, so this is a presentation that I gave at ECC about 3 weeks ago. Like this presentation is usually done like with a crowd, so there's like a lot of feedback. I'm going to be asking a lot of questions. Feel free to write in the chat if you think about different things, and yeah, or even, you know, unmute yourself and ask. So yeah, generally I'm going to be talking about, you know, sort of the state of DAOs, and as like an overarching approach to this, what we usually call governance in the ownership economy. So, oh wow, it's okay. So in this presentation, like this is what we'll cover. I'm gonna just briefly introduce myself, our history, like a chronological history of DAOs, Aragon, DAO Stack, Moloch Compound, the ownership economy, and sort of like something that was, you know, brought up and sort of sold. Going to talk about what makes DAO stick, or how does DAO work, how does DAO participation work, how do you get involved, and, you know, I'm going to present a problem in memes because yeah, I think it's a very good way to present problems, and I'm going to talk about a possible solution and an example from it. So let's start. So nice. This is me. I used to live in China. In China, I sort of used Bitcoin for different things. And then the DAO hack happened. People messaged me about it, and, you know, that kind of like drew me in to this whole thing. You know, just the idea of, you know, a body of people that can all collaborate on something without the central authority was amazing. I then later joined DAO Stack, and in DAO Stack, that's kind of like the next two logos, which is DHack and the Builder Collective, which was essentially running all of Ethereum hackathons as DAOs and making the decision-making of who the winner in the hackathon is, you know, through everyone who's participating. I am a member of DXDAO, that's kind of like the blue logo, and nowadays I'm a part of Collider Ventures, specifically Collider Labs, in the investment team. So yes, so a brief history of DAOs. Everything kind of started with the DAO, the hack. That's sort of infamous. I have to say that, you know, people talking about this being something very, very bad for Ethereum, and, you know, rollback and sort of split a lot of Bitcoiners from Ethereum because it's, you know, not immutable. But I found out about Ethereum because of that. So this is why I'm saying like there's no such thing as bad publicity. And then that kind of started, and then, you know, people were very, very hesitant to talk about DAOs because of that, especially people who were there. And in 2017, 2018, you had the biggest two ICOs of Aragon and DAO Stack, which Aragon and DAO Stack, basically, they were going to build like an end-to-end sort of WordPress for DAOs. You can have your core DAO, and then you can attach and add different plugins. So that was the framework that was being built. In 2018, in ETH Denver, Moloch DAO was kind of sprung up by Amin Soleimani from SpankChain, and that was like a super version of like a DAO. People put money, they get voting rights, people can rage quit, quote unquote, and get that money back and lose their voting power. It was very, very simple. And then in 2019, you know, simple being very, very important and good, I guess. There was like a sort of Moloch Cambrian explosion with like Meta Cartel, and many different DAOs. There was even a DAO called like John DAO. It was just people whose name is John, and they put money together. And it was like all these kind of like neat experiments. And you had like, what is a DAO? Is it a Telegram group? Is it like an on-chain representation? And all these different things came up. In 2020, we had essentially the DeFi summer and Compound coming up with their version of governance, which was sort of token voting, on-chain token voting. And then towards late 2020, we saw like gas prices completely shooting up. Snapshot.page, which was sort of like a spin-off project of Curve, became an actual product, and people have been starting using it. And then in 2021, sort of like the prevailing governance structure we have today is token voting that uses Snapshot, and then Gnosis Safe, usually a 5 out of 9 multi-sig. And that's sort of like how DAOs are functioning today. So yeah, like this whole thing of DAOs is kind of, it talks about the ownership economy. And this is a direct quote from Jesse Walden's famous paper. I think he launched Variant with this, his fund. And it's, rather than a platform's inner circle of founders and investors taking home like most or all of the value, users are also able to participate, and get some of the value generated from their collective contributions. This is sort of the promise, and it's it's very compelling. If Airbnb would allow renters and users to have a share in the platform, then they will likely grow it more and help it. All right. So the next thing I'm gonna ask like, what makes DAOs tick? I'm like actually asking you. Any thoughts?
The ability to shape the product or make decision. I think that's the main thing that bring people together, like a community of people.
Okay, so I mean, it's like their shared goal is essentially the product itself, and then affecting and doing things with the product.
Yeah, the product is a community. The way I see DAO and the way I see in crypto, the actual product is the community itself.
Yeah. And I think there are like a couple of interesting, like Idana, I've been talking over the past couple of days, there are a couple of interesting communities around that. Anything else? I'm talking about like the core thing.
The community.
Yes.
Controlling money to a certain goal together, being a part of things. I mean, sure, everybody wants to be part of a community, and people also do it for free, right? But now you also have this financial incentive and the power of a group to make things happen. So I think that's a big part of it.
Maybe another thing that I can see that could make DAO tick like in open source is basically ego, or the ability to shine and show other people that you have something to contribute to the community, and basically shape become a leader. That's kind of a leaderboard of different people coming together. That's probably like open source. It's probably the best way for someone who is unknown and who has some skill set to actually get into the action instead of going to an interview and getting accepted into a job. It's a very short short way to get into the action pretty fast.
Yeah, interesting. So like. So the word that I'm kind of thinking about, is initiative, right? And everything I think you talked about is, I can join and I can initiate something and be a part of the DAO. I can come with an idea, run it in the Discord chat, in the Telegram group, bring it to the forum, and then it can actually formulate into an idea, and I can get funding for it, and I can push myself into working. And then I have a couple of examples. We have the famous Andre Cronje proposal to stop minting any Wi-Fi forever, and then it became a super strong meme that Wi-Fi is like Bitcoin and it's deflationary, and shot the price of the token to the moon basically. We have the Metaverse Index. In Index you had DPI, which was kind of like the DPI index, and a couple of guys, and I actually spoke to them in ECC. A couple of guys came up with an idea to do like a metaverse index, and this is one of the most successful products of index. Just it actually came from the community. You have sort of like cross-community proposals, as you see over there in Aviv, where you add sushi or ex-sushi, the staked sushi, to collateral as Aviv. So the sushi community are going to the Aviv community and asking them to add, this part as collateral. And then you have on the top right corner, you have sushi or someone come to the sushi community and telling them, I want to build the DEX on Serum, on Solana, on Serum, and it's kind of like, it's even cross-chain collaboration. We're going to build your representation. And then on the bottom right, you have from DXDAO, essentially someone, DXDAO launched a product. They were going to use some of the treasury, and, one of the guys there called Pulp Machina said, you're breaking the social contract, and it was like a very big criticism of the actions of the DXDAO. And eventually, Pulp Machina, actually it's two people, but they joined the DXDAO as sort of full-time members, which was really nice to see. So yeah, anyone here has created and passed a governance proposal like some of these that we just saw? Yeah.
Passed no. Created, yeah.
Created, yeah. Passed is
Passed, as in whipping votes in order to pass the proposal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what did it take?
It's a very long road. It's one you need to be part of the community and not. I mean, we've done that with Armor and Banker, for example. And the one thing that we did is at the beginning we tried and we failed, and we found out that going the route of publishing a proposal without interacting with the community before that is a no-go. It's almost always going to fail. So the way that we approached it the second time, and we made it into like a playbook for other portfolio companies, is that we needed to interact with the community before that, basically asking questions. You post something in a forum, you collect feedback, and then you start working your proposal. You iterate the proposal just to show the other community members that you care about their feedback and you care about mixing, because it's basically cross-community proposal, right? And so at the end, when you actually post a proposal, most of the community members, something we talked about as well, are not really the one voting for it. It's like usually the people who are the most active are people who may have like 5 or 10% of the vote. It's very important that they actually support you and they don't go against you. But then you need to go and talk to silent voter, which are usually big whale funds like ourselves, who are not super active everywhere, because it's very hard to be active in every community. And you need to whip enough vote. There's two components. One is to get to quorum, which is super important, even if it means that people vote against you.
Yeah.
And then you need to get to some sort of majority that pass the proposal. So that's like two things that we needed to watch, and we were able to pass the proposal the second time around.
How does the vote work? You need 51%?
So it's usually a majority, like more yes votes than no votes, and then there's a certain quorum. You need a certain percentage of the total votes to actually participate.
Okay, but and the default is if you're well and you don't participate, then you're counted out, but all you need is a quorum, right? I mean, like, it's a default. Is it a no by default unless you say yes, or it's not that?
It needs to have a yes with enough amounts of votes. So it needs at least.
It's no by default.
Yeah,
so
it's no by default.
It won't pass, and the quorum is here in order to make sure that you don't pass vote with like 5% yes and get nothing.
It's a significant quorum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually it's 40%, and
Oh,
it can be a lot.
So it's a default, but it's a no by default.
It's also a lot because usually these are people you can't really. There's no way to communicate with them if they're not in a community. It's not like you have a mailing list that you can send emails and ping them or something.
Yeah. So you basically outlined many of the next slides, but it's good. It's good because this is.
Yeah. You can add a zero in the gas. On Banker, it's
Yeah, it
more.
depends on when. Like this could actually be another zero.
Why do you need gas?
Because you need to actually, so when you put the proposal up, it takes vote. So any action you do on Ethereum takes vote, right? So you put the proposal up, it takes vote. You set up the
Like
vote.
a transaction? When you
Yeah.
do
Yeah,
it?
yeah. And then when you vote on it, it's also a transaction.
Most of them are actually moving to snapshots, which we'll get to that as well. But you know, it's
Just one note for me when I'm looking on the index co-op and what's going on over there, you know, it feels like a Berkshire Hathaway shareholders meeting. You're like you think you're in a DAO, but basically at the end of the day, you know, it's like another shareholder.
Yeah.
For any company, right? Each shareholder or big group of shareholders have their incentives and like their financial incentives they're trying to pull.
and they're specifically they're doing index settings, so it makes sense that it's like
Yeah.
a Berkshire Hathaway board meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So as we saw, sort of, we're on the right track in terms of like DAOs and collaboration, right? So we have like bottom-up collaboration. People from anyone can come and make a proposal or talk to the community. We have a cross-community and even cross-chain participation. And as we saw with like the DXDAO version, the DXDAO sort of forum post, critics are welcome. If someone comes and criticizes what the DAO does, it's very important for the DAO to accept that feedback and welcome them. Like criticism is also initiative, and it's
Does it happen that the community expels one of the people? Like we don't want you here anymore.
I assume it can happen. I haven't personally seen something. I mean, I have seen like debates on whether you actually delivered or not and stuff like that, but I don't know.
There's this recent, I don't remember which vote was it, but there was
On Aviv?
Yeah, I think.
We're gonna get to it.
Okay.
So I think there's a problem, and I'm gonna explain it with memes because a meme is worth 1,000 explanations. So the first thing is like the top one is the from variant, the ownership economy, power to the people, and then the reality is that there isn't really any power to the people. So there's this one. So this is the kind of like a stab at snapshot. Yeah, where at the end of the day, it's a server. It's a server, meaning that you need to hack into one person's computer and you can alter or censor half the votes that are on snapshots. So, and then, I have like some very good examples. There's what I call the Uniswap DeFi Education Fund Debacle. This proposal came on the forum from Harvard Law School. And yeah, very quickly, there was like a lot of debate. And what happened is that a lot of people from the community, they came, they asked questions, and no one really answered them. And then when I was in ECC, one of the, let's say, prominent people in Uniswap got into sort of like a debate. It was a good debate with me. But at the end of the day, she says a lot of these questions have actually been answered. But I don't know if you people know here, Chris Black, he's part of DeFi Watch, and he likes to dig at these projects and point out sort of like the hypocrisy of it's community, but you don't actually let the community vote, or you don't let them participate. This top voter is no one knows who it is, but A16Z has delegated their votes to him. So there are still about like 40 questions that are left unanswered in the forums, and this proposal was passed like a long time ago. So that's kind of one, and then, as you said, this is kind of like the other proposal of adding barn bridge, right? And you can see on the left, essentially the abstract and why this is good, and then on the bottom left, you see the community signaling, which is unanimously a yes. And then on the top right-hand corner, you can see Stani. There's governance wars, and then the barn bridge VCs are voting yay. The Satin Finance, which is the main competitor, they're voting nay. right? And what's interesting here is that Barnbridge doesn't have many VCs. It's really like one of these organic projects. I think, who is it? I think Parafy is like one of the only investors, and it's mostly like a community owned project. And then, the result, as you can see, the proposal failed, and you want to ask yourself, are we voting for the best of the DAO, the organization, or are different entities in the DAO voting on their best interests?
And you don't have regulation in DAOs, so
you don't have responsible disclosure, right? There's no
basically, if you have enough capital, so you can buy yourself enough stake in the DAO, and you can shift decision in your direction.
Yeah, and this is this is sort of the state of things right now.
Yeah.
So, what are the issues in general?
Liberty and equality, they don't go together, by the way. If you want equality, you're gonna have to reduce the liberty. So it looks like it turns like the promising it wasn't really. It's turning to like a regular company with a regular interest and all of that. It doesn't look like the promising that you started with. That's
I think the promise of the DAO is mainly, it's permissionless. Anyone can come up, post a proposal, and then try to get people interested in order to pass a proposal. And what it turned out is that the DAO is mainly comprised of a lot of people who have capital, purchase a lot of voting interest into the specific, into this different protocol. You look at Compound and you basically understand that it's anything but decentralized, because there's probably 4 or 5 pretty big investors who can control, who can pass any proposal. And so basically it's just, it's just a centralized protocol per se. There's a mismatch between people who actually participate and write in the forum and are active and work in the proposal, and the people who actually have the voting power. It's pretty rare to see investors or people who have a lot of capital into a network, and it's kind of a paradox, but who are also very active in the protocol, because those are mostly professional investors who have a lot of stake around different protocol, and so they are not really active until they actually need to be active, which is when they need to pass a proposal or they need to vote on something.
Developers
right?
Yeah.
I think the developers in crypto discover that they are part of a political movement. If you compare that to tech or high-tech people, even in Israel, this is, I think, one of the groups that are not participating in political movements, and now they are part of the game. So they discover that, and we know of a few examples that if you actually look at the voters, you know that there are some interests that most of the community are not familiar with, and now, like, just a normal developer has an exposure to some political action that he cannot do anything about it. So I think that what started as like, let's govern our own community in our own separate island became like, what's going on in the Senate. It's crazy. People don't have the skill set. Yeah, people don't have the skill sets to do that. So that's the main problem. Not everyone is going to politics for a reason.
But on the other hand, I could say they make their own bed, because if you really want to avoid that fate, what you need to do is basically you need to distribute the token to a larger amount of people in order to really decentralize, and you need to make sure that those tokens get into the hands of people who are actually building the product, basically giving token versus sweat equity or something like that. If you raise money from VCs and you raise money from
Did you see my presentation ahead of time? I don't know.
No, I did not. I did not. But I know those problems because I'm also part of the problem.
Yeah.
But if you did raise money from VCs and those VCs have a lot of ownership, sometimes even more than 5 or 10% of the network, then you basically have a problem. You need to work for them. You basically work for them. The protocol works for them. I do think that the solution is in between the two. I mean, you can't really centralize everything.
Yeah.
It's a dream, but it's an utopia. It won't happen. And on the other hand, you can't really have only VC private investor into your round and then build a community around it because
I think
won't come.
I think that you cannot avoid the fact that VCs that want to invest in even in super decentralized protocols like Wi-Fi and Sushi, they will find a way of doing that, and they can accumulate quietly and then have like a lot of power. So I don't think that this is solvable. I think that what you can do is teach people politics and help them understand what it takes to govern your own community, and help them build skill sets to play with it. And I don't know, I think it even should be like a mission for the entire crypto community to have some kind of a UN that will settle problems between protocols, because eventually, eventually you will have those protocols will be similar to states, and they will have to speak with each other. Okay, and they and the communities will move from one state to another, and sometimes there will be a fight between them, so someone has to settle that. I think that you cannot avoid politics. Politics will go everywhere, and it will find any hole that they can have more power and impact. So just let's find a way of educating the normal developer to just perform better and understand what it takes to run and govern your own community.
Maybe also use arbitration in advance.
Yeah.
I think
Like
just
bit-rated.
Just like in democracy, where you have parties, so you delegate your vote to someone. So I think delegation will be a major part of the solution, like building parties and delegating. And I know Uniswap, they have this delegation too, right? So and you can see who you delegated your votes to. So that's the same thing as it works with regular voting.
So okay, like these are all like very interesting points. I think, yeah, like it's interesting.
I have a few points. If I can.
Yeah, go for it.
So I think there are no guidelines to tackle conflict of interest issues, and eventually we see investors invest against the DAO, the favor of the DAO, but in favor of their own interests, right? And also the limitation of liability to founder and investor is something that we don't have here compared to regular companies. And I think it's something very crucial because it also incentivizes the founders and to take risk and to make new things because they have limited liability. And we eventually see that big investors controls the DAOs and control the governance. And I don't really sure that we have something new here. And I think it's quite similar to what we actually have in the current corporate, traditional corporate, because in most of the DAOs, we see that the big investors controls the proposals.
Yeah, the difference is that in DAO, you have no regulation, and it's an inclusive system. So you could potentially go and purchase any token you want and then participate in vote, as opposed to a company where you need to wait for that company to IPO and then you can purchase shares, and then even then you have no ability to actually shape the governance. So I do think that DAO, with all the issues that we're discussing right now, are basically exploring what governance, what decentralized governance should look like. It's going to take a long time to reprogram, people and society to understand that they have the ability to shape, protocol and shape things that make them money. Which is what I like about crypto. You have the ability to include anyone into the economy itself. But yeah, there's a lot of issues, and again, like it's so early that a lot of people, including ourselves, we know how to take, we know how to pass a proposal. We have playbook. We have allies that we talk to, and I think the longer things will evolve, these things will morph into something new. There's going to be a new type of DAOs.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to continue, and I'm going to be talking about that. So
Can I say one thing, Eylon?
yeah.
Just to add to Adam's point, that in real corporations, even if you buy the outstanding shares, you have some sort of time-based cliff, or you need some sort of special voting right shares that cost more to actually affect the stuff. And also with DAOs, there's the product, which is removed sometimes from the token economics for the same project. And token economics directly affect the governance mechanisms and the distribution of votes, and that doesn't have to do with the product itself. So the two are removed here, as opposed to in traditional finance, where it's more of a derivative of the product itself and the earnings and the other financial standings of the company. So bad tokenomics in crypto can mean very bad things for a DAO, even if the product is excellent. Just wanted to add that.
Yeah. So I want to touch on like two things. Like one, I sort of called double down problem because we didn't really talk about that. It's the snapshot. So snapshot is a server, it's censorable, and like 98% of the government systems are using that. And now there's the guys from Gnosis who I'm like personally very good touch with them, and they want to do safe snap, which means like using essentially a bridge to double down on what you see on snapshot and then bring it on chain. And that's, if snapshot is corruptible, then also you're doubling down on that result. So that's one thing. To what you guys said, this is from my conversation in ECC after this presentation. I realized that the governance systems today, usually you have a product manager and he runs the product and he decides how to build the product and how to shape it according to user needs. Maybe according, here you want to do decentralization. The product manager here is the general counsel. The entire purpose of a DAO is a legal protection framework. That's what it is. So that's why it's pseudo-centralized, but the team and the VCs still own everything. So that's that is the result of that. And yeah, so this is the state where we are today. And I think, like Adam said, like there's going to be a lot more experiment. There's going to be a lot of things in the future. And then, let's continue.
Will you talk about what happened at Sushi?
What happened at Sushi? With the
Revolt?
No, actually,
it's actually a good example of how
the community
is actually the community. So most of the time we see where protocol have this all kind of proposal getting passed without any fight, and how the VC just push them, and then there's the Sushi proposal where they wanted to sell X amount of token.
It's the VCs wanted to buy. It's not Sushi wanted to sell.
Yeah, sorry. So the VC wanted to buy, and Sushi basically proposed that, and then suddenly the community was very adamant against it. Some of the people who were driving this might have an interest into why they didn't want to sell, but they came up with another proposal, which I think was a little bit better, with an option, the ability to basically get the same price, but from another aspect. So it's a good example where basically VC don't really have their way all the time, and a community can actually revolt and and with enough people making noises, they can mobilize. It doesn't happen every time. It's cathartic. It's like with what happened in the US right now with the infrastructure bill. You really need something big that shocked the way, that like kind of rocked the boat and shocked the community to kind of mobilize them. And I think I love seeing that. Even if I was a VC trying to purchase an interest into sushi, the fact that the community kind of revolted make me think that this is a really good community and really good protocol that I want to be involved in, because they have
A lot of engagement.
Yeah.
they have a lot of engagement.
I have to say that I think this was just like, if I'm Lightspeed, right? They are the ones who led that, and I really wanted this to work. I don't think they actually wanted this to work. They wanted to create buzz around it.
Yeah.
That's what I think they wanted to do. But if I really wanted this to work, it's an open forum. I would hire a company. There are many companies that do that. And simple attack the forum. That's one. You have 100 people that all shill sushi, advocate sushi. You can even buy accounts, pay someone an account that was created a year ago. Why not? And then also on the back, you accumulate a lot of sushi before you make that proposal.
Yeah.
And like, if you really want to pass this proposal, you can. And
I would be very, I think two issues. The first one is the accumulation. You can't always accumulate a large amount of tokens without moving the market significantly. So then you have to engage directly with the protocol. I think that's why they did it. But I'll give the cynic angle for the sushi case. So that Lightspeed came and said we're leading this round, and all the VCs came and they said that we're going to buy X amount of sushi tokens for $40 million. And then one person, Jeff Dorman, right?
the guy from Arca.
Yeah, the guy from Arca. It's a hedge fund. It felt like a Billions episode. He came and he said, "Hey guys, I'm holding about 8% of total sushi supply, and this is a shitty deal, and I don't want to do it." And then he created the rebellion, right? So and he had a financial stake because he bought sushi at a higher price than the raise right now.
Oh.
And then you had this, and he led the rebellion, and he's a financially driven entity.
He was looking for
Yeah.
for a payout.
Yeah, he's more financially driven than any of the VCs that wanted to lead the round before that. He's a 100% liquid fund, just buys and sell. So maybe this is the case where the community is it just rebels. But this is the case where someone comes and he can just he can use the capital in which he purchased the tokens, to completely change a proposal and kind of make a rebellion.
But this is the community.
He's the community.
He's part of the community.
Yeah.
So to me, it doesn't
High
matter.
stakeholder in the community.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who's revolting. You have two different angles, and by the way, at the end they resolve that and they work together. I do think that when you put a proposal like that online as a VC, you usually buy on the market before that, because when you make your intention pretty clear, that actually impact the price. It's like the stock market.
Yeah,
you don't
of
really
course.
go and say, hey, we're going to buy 5% of the company or something. You just purchase interest into the company, and then at some point you make a move. So there's always a story there that you could say that it was all a play or decoy or whatever. But at the end of the day, the result is that I think today there's a better proposal, and the VC will actually end up investing. And you said earlier you can't stop the VC, you can't stop anyone accumulating, but you can make them you can make it pretty expensive for them to accumulate.
Yeah.
So that's one thing.
Okay, yeah, let's continue, because I'm going to be talking about a potential angle for a solution to some of these things. So kind of how can we fix? Obviously, there's a problem right now, and on-chain governance systems that are mainnet, just no one wants to vote if it costs $100, and it's gonna create low participation rates and stuff like that. So one solution could be side chains and L2s, and a lot of people are doing that on Polygon, on XDAI, on Binance Chain, and Arbitrum has a testnet live, and hopefully it will be live very soon. But one thing is the voting power and its core issue. And one thing we're not doing is empowering the people who actually work with something I call reputation. I actually didn't make this up. This is Matan from DAOstack, Matan and Adam. And I think it's a brilliant idea. I'm going to briefly talk about this. So yeah, reputation-based voting. So reputation, you can call it karma. I think karma sounds really nice. It's gained for working for the DAO. It's gained for participating in DAO activities, contributing to the ecosystem. It's non-transferable, meaning it's not that you hold it like you would a token. It's that the DAO gives you a value of how much reputation you have. And things that we can do for that is, you can reward forum participation, call attendance, initiatives, chat activity, and the tools that are currently out and about for doing that is like Discord, SourceCred, Coordinate, and other, there are lots of participation in gamification engines.
Who decides what's a good reputation?
So you when you set it up, you will decide.
Contract, or it's like, or someone says.
So it depends. If I'll briefly touch on like DXDAO and how they do it, and it's two things. One is like the on-chain representation. You can say there's like social consensus. Mm-hmm. I work for the DAO. I'm a full-time employee. Let's say for Sushi or for DXDAO. Every month of me working full-time, I get 100 reputation, and that's how I get it. Every call attendance could be 5 reputation. Every forum post, and then you have all these things, and then, for example, Coordinate is sort of like gifting. You say, okay, I saw that this guy was very contributed a lot this month, and then I want to give him, and this guy didn't contribute much, so I'm not going to give him this month. But there are also problems with that because it becomes sort of like a popularity contest. I want to do the things that are out there as much as possible because people are going to see it and then give me more reputation at the end of the month.
It also creates an inner circle like the traditional world.
Yeah. And then SourceCred just looks at the chat and they have like an interesting engine that kind of calculates, but it's all gameable at the end of the day. So this is not like a perfect solution.
But by the way, what about, I don't know if before that, but capping the ability to accumulate, like really distributing.
How can you do that?
VC won't be able to accumulate more than 1.5%. I don't know.
I think technically it's a problem in crypto because you can have several wallets and it's very hard, to know who is the entity behind all the different holdings. It's a good idea actually, but
if you have an identity system, like an on-chain identity system, then things could get easier. But I think
that goes against the ethos of crypto. I mean, it's not permissionless anymore. You're basically adding a permission-based system where basically you tell people who can own what. I think it's better to plan that as part of one, the governance system, and two, the token economic, where you basically only allow VC to purchase a very small interest at the beginning, and then you add inflation as part of the system, and you basically reward participation, you reward validation, you reward basically active member into the system by giving them new minted token. And then the governance system you're talking about, the real question that I'm asking myself, and I don't have an answer right now, is that do you want to allow people to capitalize on those karma, or do you want to basically just keep it as a level where they can have an additional share class where they can have additional voting power? So say you have 100% token that maybe represent 80% or 70% of the governance power, and another 30% that basically it's the karma. But then if people work very hard and get pretty high karma-wise, but they don't have the ability to cash out, so they just steer the community in the governance somewhere. They make it better at their expense for people who have capital. So I can see how someone who has money and put money and or actually get paid into the token and has very high karma, it really worked for him. But someone who comes from, let's say, from Africa or somewhere else where they can really work into the putting together documentation, answering questions, coming to calls and getting like very high karma, but they don't get rewarded with token because there's this karma system. And at the end of the day, it's not an inclusive system anymore. I think if you can make a system where the karma can actually get you payout or part of the inflation and reward you with money as well, or you can get karma, or you can cash out karma, that could be an interesting system where people who are actually, promoting and pushing the governance and pushing the community get a payout out of it as well.
Yeah, so interesting.
I'm not sure about pushing the communities and incentivizing the community to participate is the right solution. I think there is a reason why we moved from the ancient Greek democracy to what we have today. What we have today is basically a representation of your votes, and most of the population are not voting on an everyday basis or on every proposal that there is. They have their leaders that they choose, and they will do that work for them. They cannot really understand all the stuff around one proposal. Imagine our own proposal within what we are trying to achieve. It's a lot of work to just learn what's going on and decide what you should do. You should really understand the protocol. I think that there is a very short period of time where the community should be very active. It's only in the beginning of the project, but after some time, it should grow in a way that if you were even one of the first builder of this protocol, you shouldn't vote on a daily basis. It's a job that other people should do, and I think that what Idan said about delegators, I have a feeling that this is where most of the protocols will go into.
Yeah,
Also,
I don't think there's any protocol that has daily votes, like daily proposals. Usually, like the votes that we have today. Let's say what we saw in Aviv is to add a certain coin to be used as collateral, like to add things to the protocol, or the basic one is the grants. This guy should get a grant, this guy shouldn't get a grant, and these are the type of proposals that we have right now. At the later stage, I assume there will be actual directions that the protocol should take and development decisions. And then the question is, who understands more about this? The people who work, the developers, and the community managers, and the people who are day to day on the product, or the venture capitalists that invested in the product.
Let's take this one step backward, okay? Because I partly disagree with what Avishai just said, but also agree with him. And I partly disagree with what you said and also agree with what you said. Do we want to mimic the real world by saying, okay, the person who have money into a corporation or a citizen has a vote and you can take that vote and you have to represent him? Or do you want to also allow people who are working? So for example, if you take the Senate or the Congress, you say basically the assistant to this specific senator or people who are working in the Senate, they know more about the system, and so they should have more voting power. So if you want to mimic the real world, that basically that equation doesn't work, because you're basically saying if you work in the system and you're an insider, you should have the ability to basically push the scale somewhere else. On the other end, you're basically telling yourself, and that's kind of connecting back to what Avishai said, you need to learn politics. So the people who are working into the Senate and into the Congress, they want to get somewhere, and so they're working there. They might do a lot of work and they might see the vote getting pushed back or whatever because they're not good at politics or they're on the losing side. But they have a goal that they're working toward, which is basically getting to a point where they can actually make, they can tip the scale or something. So what I'm saying, maybe having them, giving karma is not the right solution. Maybe giving karma is maybe a signaling system for people to delegate to those people. So basically, you're basically telling yourself, okay, there's a lot of people involved, and I want to delegate as someone who has like 2 token, 5 token, 20 token. I want to delegate to someone else, I can delegate to the biggest VC, which is not a good solution because you don't want to put more power behind someone who already has enough power. Or you could have an alternative system where basically they'll tell you those are the people who understand the system. Those are people who are very enthusiastic about the system. They have a very high power, a very high karma. This is the number of tokens they already have or people delegate to, and you can delegate to any one of them. But the karma doesn't give them any more voting power because you want the voting power to be tied to the token. So it's like kind of against what I said earlier that you want to make this inclusive. But if you delegate to someone, then maybe you can also reward him with like 10%.
So this is interesting.
Just to say something small about karma, we use this idea also that that you took from Matan's team as part of Good Dollar in one of the early sort of development of the system, and we were at that time thinking that it's probably a good tool for really the beginning of the community, but not like for a really short transition period, and not as something permanent. Because if you talk about these two asset classes, something to really incentivize. Both show to the community that you don't want to start and control the process from the get-go and sort of incentivize early sort of holders rather than something that is more long-term. And then as also Adam said, you can decide to airdrop something for people that use it at some point. But we didn't see how in the long term this could coexist in a very fruitful way. We saw that also projects that grow big enough, even if you take, say, Compound Maker or Aave, this, even if their vote is still in single digits, they don't have huge votes for many of the decisions, they still kind of have enough community involvement. That's it.
So awesome. I want to maybe we'll get through the next couple of slides and then we have like more time to talk. So just kind of like about reputation versus token-based voting. So in reputation, it's controlled by the DAO, whereas in token, it's controlled by the individual. It's non-transferable in reputation, and it is transferable. That's like a part of it. It's like a feature of it. And in reputation, it's also resilient to vote buying. It's, like the only way for me to sell you my reputation is to sell you my private key, which is, it can happen, but it's still fairly resilient. And token voting, it's actually part of it. Like you actually buy votes, and reputation. You can argue that it's better at making both objective and non-objective decisions, whereas in token voting, it's objective decisions that I'm like for me. So as we saw like in the examples of Aviv, if I'm a VC, I'm going to vote against the competitor that I invested in. And so what I think kind of like the angle to solution, and there's like I'm going to talk about a workshop that's been done by DAO about this. So it's to combine both token and reputation voting for a unified formula that accounts for both sweat equity and capital equity. And so there was like this DAO governance 2.0 working group. These are some of the primitives, like reputation is earned. DXD is supposed to be the financial value for the DAO. Holding DAO doesn't necessitate governance participation. And reputation should remain non-transferable, and it's like the core. So it's either like a multiplier or a denominator. And yeah, some of the people that participated in this is, Delphi, DXDAO, people from DAO Stack, me from Collider Ventures, I guess, 1KX and Gnosis and others. And if people don't know, like the story of DXDAO is that it was sort of like born between like DAO Stack and Gnosis created it together, and they kind of left it. And then a bunch of people, quite literally, like from the community, slowly picked it up. It happened in ETH Denver 2020. Yeah, 2020. They came and were like, hey, let's do something with this. And then they decided to do like a fundraiser that now they hold about $40 million, and they developed centralized products. So it really is decentralized in a way. And then I'm gonna touch briefly about the results. It actually combines like reputation influence and DXDAO influence. And right now, DXDAO is fully reputation. There's no token voting at all. So it's interesting what you said, Adam, because I don't think it's here, but in this proposal, they say, okay, so reputation holders, they will get bought out with DXD tokens, like you said. So you're giving them like an exit opportunity. And then, what they said is normalize both reputation, normalize both DXD, not only holding, but future staked, because, if I lock my tokens for 2 years, it means that I'm, aligned for the success of the token in 2 years from now, which makes a lot more sense than completely liquid voting tokens. And then there's all these calculations. And yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. So yeah, now we can have an open discussion about this entire thing.
Whoever is on the call, we heard about Omri. Thank you, Omri, for your participation. But if anyone else want to bring up any question to Eylon or just add his 2 cents, you're more than welcome. Okay.
Yeah. So I will say that there's a sort of working group formulating around this idea and around a bunch of people that I spoke to in ECC. To basically structure and create a governance system like that, or at least the voting power engine that could be plugged into Compound, into Aave, in sort of a better way. And yeah,
I have a question.
Yeah.
Hey, so a lot of people, for some reason, have this connection between everything blockchain and crypto to making money. And then they ask me, well, how do I make money of this DAO thing, or of this DeFi thing, or of this NFT thing? And I was wondering if maybe there's some gamification around that, to incentivize participation, or with voting to a DAO, along with what you said about using layer 2s to minimize the costs.
Do you think, let's say, financially rewarding voters is a good thing?
If you're not rewarding them for what they voted, but just for the act of voting, and maybe the reward doesn't. Yeah, I don't know. It really goes more into psychology, right? What makes people motivated to do things? It can be gamification. It can be financial rewards. It can be, maybe different things.
Yeah, so I think what we talked about in the beginning about what makes DAOs tick.
Yeah.
One of the things is leaderboard or being famous, even within a certain ecosystem. That's a part of this gamification, right? If I created a proposal, if I voted, if I voiced my opposition against this or that proposal, it all kind of,
What do you think about paying people to vote? Vote, you get an NFT for voting. That might have some financial value in the future. Or vote and you get tokens.
So I think this will create very bad incentives. You don't want to vote for either good or bad. You just want to vote. You're not going to voice your opinion, and you're going to find as many DAOs as you can, to vote in as many DAOs as you can, just to earn as much money as possible. You're not really going to care about the community.
Yeah. I mean, people have limited amount of time, right? But
they'll find ways to automate it if there's money, and it's a simple action.
Yeah, it does remind me the times where the ICO cap account with KYC and a whole ecosystem of people creating KYC accounts started to emerge, including finding people on Mechanical Turk to go and actually, sign up with their passport and get a $1 in order to get, to get a KYC account. So whenever there's an incentive, there's a gaming possibility. Someone will find out a way to circumvent that. I do want to tell a short story about something that happened to me in 2017, or maybe even before that. There was a company, there was a network that launched the token, and they were doing a marketplace, and part of what happened there is that they wanted people to kind of submit proposal of what type of use cases you could see in that marketplace. and it kind of tied into what I've been doing in my real life with open source and communities and developer tools. And so I submitted a bunch of proposals on GitHub. That was a long time before there was snapshots and all those things. And then I went into the Slack. Long time ago, this community were actually using Slack before they moved to Discord. And I started talking to people, including the founder, and I kind of asked them to comment on my proposal, and they commented, etc. And there was a kind of traction. And 2 of 4 or 5 proposals actually got picked, and I got rewarded with tokens that ended up being worth like a couple of, I think, $10,000. So I worked for like 5 hours. I didn't expect anything, and then I got $10,000. And I was baffled back then because I was like, wait a second, I'm Adam, I work at 500 startup, I have a good salary. This is not my main job, and I don't need that. But if I'm someone else in Egypt or in Africa or in another country where my wage is a couple of $100 a month, I can write the same proposal. I'm as smart as Adam, or even smarter than Adam. Although I would doubt that. Kidding. I could write a better proposal. I could get $10,000, and I could change my life. And aside when I think about crypto, that specific moment where people were participating in the community, not just governance, get rewarded for the hard work, and that reward is actually interchangeable with money. It's a financial reward that you can either sell in order to cash out, or you can live with you and become even more entangled with the community and purchase even more token because you believe in the community and you think it could get somewhere. That's something that I think is kind of a magnet to a lot of people. So yes, a lot of people will offer, hey, I can make money. But at the end of the day, there's a very good way to onboard 1 billion people who are actually making less money than the poorest person in Israel, for example. And those people could actually come and work for network. It's like, I think this is the future of work. This is the future of participation. This is the future of crypto, where people can come in and work a couple of hours here, a couple of hours there, and submit proposal, help shape the governance, the community, make some money out of it, and become making money is not a bad thing. And then slowly finding where they actually want to be part of it. I mean, you don't need to work for one company, get a salary from one company. You could actually freelance with 20 different networks and make even more money than you will work with one company. So I think that ties back into the governance, because I think people who would be part of the governance will be people who are either financially incentivized because they have a lot of stock into the proposal, and they're backing the network with money. So those billion people could come in and actually get reward. So there's like a feedback loop here. Or it could be people who are coming in to drive proposal, getting some token, and then slowly work for those token, and then maybe over time become people you delegate to. They become founder of other protocols. So I think it really demonstrates what crypto can become in next 2-3 decades.
Yeah, I can tell you specifically in DAO. I think this is in sushi as well. People who work, my name is Eylon. I work part-time, I work full-time. This is what I do. These are my responsibilities. So in DAO, for example, you get a salary, like whatever it is that you agreed upon, and you get it in either, you can choose USDC, DAI, Ether, and then additionally you get reputation. And in sushi right now, it's mostly you get, I think you get like USDC and staked or future locked X sushi. So you earn yield on that sushi, and then you get it in like 2 years. So that's how it works with that. So you actually do also get some voting power that is locked. So yeah, I very much agree that because we're opening this up to everyone, like it's going to be amazing. And I think like Axie Infinity, that's how they succeeded, right? For them, it's the gaming aspect. And some people, it's very simple to play a game.
Yeah.
And like this is going to spread. Like the fact that anyone in the world can play, and anyone in the world can participate and contribute to certain organizations, then I see this like completely sort of exploding.
Yeah, it's taking gaming that was, not so long ago was kind of limited to several, there are leagues in gaming where you can make money and you have sponsorship and it's like not democratized. You need to get to a certain level. It's like kind of democratizing those leagues and basically allowing anyone to play to earn something that I thought, a long time ago when Zynga and others were launched on Facebook, I thought that at some point they would allow you to monetize yourself. You play, you get credit, but no, the only thing that happened is that they were getting people to just buy credits and all the money go to Zynga. I think it's really interesting to see a future where our kids and our grandkids will actually have different skill set. If you're a gamer, you can make money, you can make a living. If you're a politician, you can make a living. It's an entirely new world where different skill set that were not making any money in the past decade will make a lot of money for those folks.
Yeah.
If I can also join in, I think there's also a lot of interest that I see around DAOs that focus on fundraising and launchpads like Meta Cartel and Polka starters and Sol starters, like a lot of layer ones now have like these launchpads and DAOs that are around like using the crowd to curate projects. And I think there is like a great alignment of incentives there because people can also participate, then get rights to participate in the initial IDOs, which is interesting. And also social tokens like DAOs that are around social are getting some traction lately. So definitely a lot of people are talking about DAOs in these contexts now.
Yeah.
Awesome. What is your name, by the way? We won't see Upright.
Yeah, my name is Eylon Shavit, and I'm with Upright. Yeah.
See you in a couple of weeks.
Yes, and we also have an investors AMA that I will invite all of you.
I think when I think about DAOs, so it has brought to the internet a way to incorporate, which is not legal incorporation. If you incorporate, you can financially incorporate through a company, and then you are subject to the specific country law you're in. And that was the only way you couldn't incorporate in an internet native way before DAOs. And now you have a way to build this sort of corporation, but it's not subject to law, it's subject to technology, right? And blockchains are the technology there in which you can incorporate throughout. Then you can suddenly, all these tools you couldn't do earlier, with people from different countries or different geographies of voting and building stuff together. And you had to have this incentive there, which you can actually pay people that they can translate to, to fiat and pay for food and the rent and stuff. And before those, you couldn't have that. And I think that's why I think it's a breakthrough in human incorporation, because you can, for the first time, you can actually incorporate throughout the internet in a real way, not something it just, you had forums and stuff, you have Reddit, but now you have people who are getting wages, like you said, people are getting paid, and people are engaged, and it's kind of open up in a whole new way of human interaction.
Yeah.
So it happens very, very fast. Like you can set up a DAO overnight. Like you just invite a few people to a group chat and bam, you have a DAO, right? You send funds to Gnosis multisig or something. And just like that, you have a DAO. Like I think I joined like half a dozen different DAOs just in the past few days. It's that easy and fast.
Yeah. Any group of people can come together and have a bank account, and a virtual bank account. They can manage money. They can do stuff with this money.
Yeah.
It's an incredible revolution.
Like Pleasure DAO.
People pleaser. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's called pleasure now.
Pleasure there, yeah.
People coming
I have
together.
a question.
Yeah. Go ahead, Louis.
There was a lot of discussion in Germany, you must have seen it, about the DAO legality. Do you have some opinions about it that you want to share? Where do you think it's going?
On the legal side, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, there were some requirements they set up that, they wanted to actually be able to approach individual. Have you seen that one, or I could send it to you if you haven't?
No, I would love to see it.
The
Okay,
main problem
perfect.
is still we as a VC, and we had a lot of talk around it, and then maybe Tal can add on that. Tal is our legal counsel as well. The thing that I see with DAO is that because it's not really an entity and you hold the token, you can be liable for things that you do. For example, one thing that we don't do as a VC, we try to vote from time to time. We try to be very active, but there's like, for example, one proposal we will never vote on, which is issuing new token, for example, because of the legality. What happens tomorrow if the specific token is classified as a security token and you voted on issuing this token and sell this token to to non-accredited investor? Could the SEC come to us as VC and say, you actually voted on issuing your token and those were security tokens, so we want to sue you because it's a decentralized autonomous organization and there's no one actually answering for that corporation. I think we will see in the future maybe some people who are very active into those DAO getting prosecuted for things that they did, for example. And what happened in Wyoming that were, they're trying to kind of come up with a legal entity or legal structure for DAO is very interesting. I think we need more of that around the world. We actually need to bridge between the real world legal framework and that, meta crypto of legal framework where, you can't have like a void. And as a VC, we actually answer to real LP and to the legal framework. So we can't really be pseudo-anonymous or be completely anonymous and, vote on proposal and not get prosecuted later on. So I think it's a big problem that not many people, many individuals are actually aware of because they don't understand the problematic. But I think VCs and big corporations who are actually have a vested interest and have a lot of token actually understand the problem. And sometimes you even see, for example, big VC who don't actually vote. They delegate. They have a strategy of delegating to other people who actually vote for them. Or they, not so long ago, for example, A16Z couldn't even vote because they couldn't take the token out of the custody to actually vote. So, it's another problem. You need to leave your token in custody, but you also want to vote. So those custodians came up with a solution to actually vote from the custodian itself.
But in that note, maybe if you have requests for next meetings, I would love to see a meeting talking maybe Adiel or others about custody and DeFi. I mean, especially we see what happened yesterday. And I think they are very interesting because they're somewhat contradictory, right? In some way, but also we can see they are very, very essential. And how do you actually see them together? That would be very interesting for me as a listener. Please.
Great. Yeah. Awesome. I think what we'll send a form to folks who were in this in this presentation, kind of get feedback from you, anonymous feedback to understand, what we can improve, what did work and what didn't work, and maybe we'll ask you guys to also tell us, what you would want to hear about in some of our next presentation. We have a couple of next presentation lined up, but the more we hear back from you, the more we also understand, what could tick with you guys and what could also tick for us.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to also present and talk about something, there's also room for that, I think, in the forum.
Yeah, sounds cool. I mean, it depends what the type you want. If it's more business or technology or what's the focus it will be. I can, for example, bring a PhD student at some point, giving like a 15 minutes about something fun, some different trials.
The focus is anything that could make us smarter as investor. So we started this presentation internally in order for us as a VC to become smarter and learn from each other. And then we decided to open it up. In the long run, we'll also have external lecturer coming in and lecture us on specific, subject they're professional in. What we're looking to get better at governance, we're looking to get better at trend picking. We're looking at everything. So anything that is crypto related or blockchain related that you think could actually hold a discussion of an hour, presentation and then discussion around it. Could be interesting. So just reach out to Idan, who's organizing those lecture, and let him know what you would want to present, and he'll make sure to to have you slotted in the next couple of weeks.
Well, thanks everybody. It's been really, really nice experience. So.
All right, I think we're done. Yeah.
Great presentation, Eylon. Really.
Yeah, Eylon,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
thanks.
Thank you for participating.
Yeah. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye bye. Thank you.